Over 7 million different animals inhabit our planet.
What animal are we talking about today?
Octopus.
What can they teach us?
They exhibit a lot of different, more higher cognitive levels of learning. Like I said, tool use, problem solving, spatial discrimination.
Many species are in crisis and need your help. Join the movement at allcreaturespod.com.
Hi, Zach.
Yeah.
Hi.
Here.
Zachy, what animal are we talking about today?
Octopus.
Octopus? How many arms does an octopus have? How many?
3.
3? That's how many hearts it has, huh?
3?
Yes, you're right. How many arms does he have? How many arms?
8.
Yay! Good job! Good job, Zachy. And you're only, what, 2? You're only 2 years old, huh? And you know octopuses have 8 arms?
Mm-hmm.
What color are octopuses?
Red.
Red? Yes, the big one, huh? They're neat. Where do they live?
Water.
In the water. Oh my gosh, you're so smart, Zach. Already 2. You're an octopus expert. Should we just do the podcast with you?
Yes.
Yeah. I would have so much fun, Zachy. Well, thank you for coming on.
For you.
You're welcome. Xander, I think your little brother knows a lot about octopus.
No, he doesn't.
He does too. He knew they had 3 hearts and 8 arms. Right?
Yes.
What else do you know about octopus? Yeah, where do they live?
In the water. In the water, and they eat fish.
They do. And what do they have special 8 of that we have 2 of?
8 arms.
That's right. What else do they have?
Suckers on their arms.
I know. Isn't that crazy? Do you know what those suckers do?
They help grab its food.
You're right. You're right. Now, what octopus are we covering today? Do you know?
Blue octopus.
Yeah, the Blue Ring Octopus. So what do you know special about the Blue Ring Octopus?
When it gets scared, he puts blue rings on its body.
I know. What does that mean?
That means it's warning you for danger.
Right. What's dangerous about him?
He's venomous. He's gonna bite you.
I know. Yeah, okay, so let's ask you this. Here's a big question for you. You ready, Xander?
What?
Okay, what's the difference between a venomous animal and a poisonous animal?
Poisonous, if you touch them, you'll get sick. And venomous, if they bite you, you get sick.
Okay, we're done. Tell your mom we're done. That is too amazing. You know too much. How old are you again, Xander? Like 5? You're 5 and you know that? Oh my goodness. Yeah, you could just replace your mommy. Let's just take a seat. You can just do the whole episode with me on the Blue Ring Octopus because you know more than I do.
No, I don't.
Sound like a plan?
No!
But you knew the difference between a venomous and poisonous animal. I'm blown away. Seriously, I know your parents are smart, but geez. Well, thank you for you and your little brother for coming on and teaching us about the octopus. They are amazing, huh?
Bye-bye.
Welcome to the All Creatures Podcast. This is Chris.
And I'm proud Mama Angie.
Yeah, I know. Those two are too adorable. The knowledge they have. Obviously you're teaching them well.
Well, it's a little bit of wild crats as well. And yes, and lots of books. They love their animal facts books. National Geographic and Highlights and a couple other. I think it's Ranger Rick is another great little kid magazine that has a lot of fun animal facts. So I know when I was younger, I waited each month for that new magazine to come in to teach me all about the little animals. And they had the flashcards that you could cut into pieces, and it had little animal facts on it. So yeah, no, they love.
But they retain it. I mean, little Zach, 2-year-old Zach.
Yeah.
Like seriously. He knows everything about octopuses.
Well, he's almost,
Xander,
he'll be 3 in a few months. So he's, but yes, no, he is really, really excited about animals as well. And we go for a lot of nature walks, and we always are looking for wildlife. And
it's good.
It's a big topic. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. They're amazing. They're amazing. You two are doing an amazing job with them. So some exciting stuff's happening for us, Angie. Patreon. We released our Great White episode.
Great white sharks. It's awesome. Perfect for summertime. All about fish biology and behavior, and they do some cool things. So check that out if you haven't.
Yes.
You will, if you're not already a shark fan, you will definitely fall in love with them because they're definitely misunderstood and just really cool physiology and amazing hunting behavior.
Yes. I mean, it's amazing. And shout out to Bill and his son Quinn, who loves our podcast. They're our latest Patreon supporters, and Julie is a supporter, and a bunch of other people. So thank you so much. We have the cheetah episode out on there, news segment. We're going to be doing another news segment here pretty quick, which I have to organize with you, Angie. So for $5 a month, your support means the world to us. So thank you for that. And then Angie, I've got to do some shout outs because on Instagram and Facebook, on our accounts, I'm starting to do guest our next species. So this is going back to orca. It was too easy. Everybody got it.
Yeah, your clues are pretty easy, but that's good. You got to start them off gentle, right? The first one's free. That's what they always say, right?
Yeah. So on Facebook, I got shout outs to Summer, Lee, Brianne, Jonathan, Chelsea, and Julie. Now, Instagram is fun because it's their Instagram handles. So, always at. So Sunny Coral Atoll was pretty close. It was pretty close. But others got it right. Little Boots 9. I love that name. Sunny Shayak, Lovey 96, Zoo Cutie. And then you're going to like this one, Angie. When Animals Attack Podcast.
Nice.
So
yeah.
I've got to message them and say, when are you going to do the episode on cows? Because cows kill a lot of people in the United States. Not a lot, but still more
or
than
mosquitoes better still, right?
Yeah, I know. So Blue Ring Octopus. Here we go. Here we go.
It's our second cephalopod, right?
Mm-hmm. After vampire squid, which was so long ago.
So long ago.
Hold on. What episode number?
I have no idea. Let me guess though. This is fun. 35.
No, 14.
Oh, wow. That is a way long time ago.
Way long ago.
But this is our first true octopus, which I've been dying to do because looking back at some of my squid notes for the vampire squid there's not a lot known about its behavior and looking back at some of my vampire squid notes, there's a lot of octopus references in there. And I was giggling to myself reading over the notes like, wow, I really wanted to talk about octopus that day, but we were focused on the squid.
I know.
So yes, just they're incredible. And their physiology is amazing. Their behavior is amazing. We'll recount some facts about their intelligence. Is going to be a big section.
I know. Last week we signed off like this would be tough to beat. Orca would be tough to beat. The next week we beat it almost. Orcas are still, oh my goodness, they're number 2 on my list. But reading about the octopus, I'm blown away. I am blown away.
Oh yes, and just
literally
just the videos that people have put up and. Yeah, it's some of the shenanigans, for lack of better terms, the personalities that they have. Yes. So if you're not an octopus fan, by the end, you'll be definitely part of,
well, here you go. Octonation. So just a heads up. This Thursday, we have an interview with the number 1 octopus fan in the world by far. Warren Carlisle, quickly becoming a good friend of mine. An amazing person who founded the number 1 octopus fan club, was recognized by Facebook as one of the most influential social media learning and
education
groups. He has created this group. He has hundreds of thousands of followers around the world. We'll talk about him more at the end of the podcast, but he has a really interesting story about how he founded this group and what they're learning. And it's amazing. Now I know why. I mean, and plus the stuff he's doing for ocean conservation. I mean, just amazing, amazing work. So look for that on Thursday, but you're right. I mean, I'm part of the Octo Nation. I sent you an invite the other day.
Yes.
You are becoming part of the Octo
Absolutely.
Nation.
Hands down.
It's just
all
amazing.
8 hands down for sure.
Our arms. Yeah.
And you're definitely going to want to stay tuned towards the end of the podcast. I'm going to discuss a plastic challenge that Chris and I and several of our other friends and fans are going to undertake in the month of July. It's a really cool opportunity to learn more about how to help the environment, not just from plastic reduction, but from driving less, biking more, different eating habits. It's just a really cool challenge, and I'm super competitive. I don't know about other people out there, but it's really fun to track this stuff and to learn. And All Creatures podcast, I just signed us up for a team. So more details to come about that at the end of the podcast, because we're about 2 weeks away from it. And so I want to mentally gear everybody up for this big challenge that's going to help change some of your habits. And it'll help get all of our conservation heroes that already do so much for animals and conservation, but even more involved, and give you tips on different things you can do. And then you get to track it and you get scores, and it's super fun. So definitely stay tuned for that.
For sure. And we're going to talk about the Blue Ring Octopus. It is
eventually we'll get
one
there.
Of the ocean's most, we'll get there, but it's one of the most deadly. And we're trying to get you excited about octopus, or octopuses is the plural, not octopi. It gets people a little angry, and oh God, before I even get into it, it's octopus is actually Greek. Octopi is Latin, and then we make it into an English word. So there's a lot of debate, but octopuses is the most accepted plural. And Octonation will go after us if we're wrong. So we have to be careful. But before we jump in, real quick, Blue Ring Octopus, it's stay tuned, because it is called one of the most deadly animals in the ocean. So we'll just see how deadly they are. It's kind of a theme in our show. But I have to give a shout out to Chris, who sent us the most beautiful email, Angie. I know I forwarded it to you. It just makes my heart sing, what we're doing. And just really quickly, he wrote his girlfriend's daughter, Lily. So shout out to Lily. He said, "We began using your podcast as a tool to teach ourselves more about the creatures around which we would soon be working," because he's volunteering at a local zoo. "And in a few months that we've been listening, we've learned so much about the fantastic lives of the animals that we share this planet with, and that Lily is totally brilliant, and the podcast has made things a bit more accessible to her. And when she listens to our podcast and she gets all those facts, he sees her confidence growing." So it just was an amazing email. So shout out to Chris, and especially Lily. Please keep listening. We love you guys. And that's what drives us to do this about Blue Ring Octopus.
Well, absolutely. And I know we talked about Patreon a little bit earlier. And if you can't donate $5 a month, I get it. I've been there. But what you can do is share our podcast. And the other thing that I really want to encourage is if you can just rate us and give us however many stars you think we're worth on iTunes. That would be huge, because I think we have about 85 comments. And if we could jump that up to 100 in the next couple weeks, that would be fabulous. That will help us.
We keep teasing.
Big time with some of our long-term goals. So, and the feedback on there is incredible. I've had people recommend species on there, and I've had people give Xander a shout out. So we do read those those recommendations and the things you like about our podcast. Of course, if there's things you don't, just send that in a private email.
Yes, please. Thank you.
That's what I tell my students when they're rating me. I'm like, you can rate me, but if you have any critiques, I like critiques, but just tell them to me in person. I'm trying to get a job here. Okay.
So Blue Ring Octopus, Angie, the thing, I'll start off. There's 10 different species.
Okay. Are there 10? Okay. Because I read 4 somewhere and then I read 5 somewhere.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So, it's 4 known, 6 suspected.
So but you just said 10.
10 total if you count the 6 that they
So you're doing math?
Separate species.
Is that what you just did there? 6 plus?
Kind of. Yeah. 6 plus 4 is 10, right? I think so. You're a teacher? No. So, So there's 4 known. There's 4 known, 6 suspected. Describe them. I mean, again, they're your normal average octopus. These have so gorgeous. You have to look at the pictures. Not if you're driving, look later. But yellowish skin, and then they have those blue rings that, when threatened, get really bright. Like, don't mess with me because you will die if you get bit by me. It's so venomous. Now, the larger of the species, their bodies are only about 2 inches long or 5 centimeters, and their 8 arms can go up to about 4 inches. Right. So I've seen them described as like a golf ball.
I was going to say, if you're a visual person, just picture them fitting in the palm of your hand. The deck of cards, palm of your hand.
This yellow octopus with bright blue rings with black dots.
Don't put it in your hand.
No. Don't mess with them. Don't. Especially our Aussies down there. You're listening. I know. Lee and all you other ones down there. Do not pick up a blue ring octopus. You probably already know that. But speaking of that, range. So they're native to the Pacific Ocean, but they're kind of in that Indo-Pacific region. At depths 50 meters or higher. They're not really that deep. They range from just south of Japan, along China, Southeast Asia, through Indonesia. Then they go out to India and then all the way to the east coast of Africa in Madagascar.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize they're that far west. Okay. Yeah.
And then whenever I get to the Maldives, one of these days, and I get to go dive with sea turtles and everything
whale
like
sharks.
That, I am not. Whale sharks. They're out there, I'm sure, and I'm not going to go anywhere near them. No. I'll probably die of a heart attack. Don't say that. Knock on wood. But, these octopus in general, a lot of the facts today apply to all octopus, and then we'll get in specifics on the blue ring, especially their venom and stuff like that. It's reading about cephalopods, and they're doing okay right now, but we don't have a lot of data on them, but we know the oceans are in crisis. We know that for a fact. The oceans are in crisis, and, this ocean acidification, the warming of the oceans, it's going to have a huge impact on them. You cannot be naive and think that, what doesn't affect one species won't affect the next, because we talk about complex food webs. We're taking out whole chunks of that right now. It's going to affect all the octopuses in the ocean. There's 300 species of octopus on the planet, and that's going to have a detrimental effect.
And Chris, I think it was today or yesterday, and we'll talk more about this perhaps in conservation news, but it's so apropos I have to mention in this podcast that marine biologists came out with a study in modeling and forecasting. And at the rate we're going in the oceans as a whole, from invertebrate to vertebrate to marine mammal to fish, they are estimating that by the end of the century, 1/6 of life in the ocean is gone. Okay. So I think that's like 17.5% or something. And
you're talking how many millions of species? I mean, we open up with there's over 7 million species of life on Earth. A lot of that's plants and insects and things like that. But you think about the oceans dominate the planet as far as land mass. So you think of all the life in the ocean, that is catastrophic. That is catastrophic.
But they had a silver line. Like, I am listening.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I'm saying our government. Like, are you idiots listening? I'm sorry. I'm not getting political, but
I was thinking the other day, I'm like, we need a transformer here in the United States, and then I'll get off my soapbox, but we needed a cultural movement party in the US. And I know a lot over, especially in Europe and certain parts of Europe as well. There's always like left versus right, the 2-party system. And it's like this belief or that belief, but we need none of that. That we need like the future party, and not just like forward thinking. Like, do we want to have a future or don't we? So yes, but there was a silver lining with this paper that said if we actually start doing things now to curb CO2 emissions, that we can get that number down to only 5 instead of like 17 point whatever percent to only 5% by the end of the century.
Which is
so it's already happening. Yeah,
what,
the ball's in motion. Like it's the damage is there's definitely going to be some that suffer. I mean, we're already seeing it in corals and several other species of fish. So yes, the oceans are in crisis, and the octopus, although especially the blue-ringed octopus, we don't know a lot about their population numbers. They've never been evaluated by the IUCN, which is one of our governing authorities for conservation nature, which Chris and I, of course, excellent scientists out there doing excellent work. We always refer to them, and they haven't been evaluated.
No, and it's just, they're suffering. I mean, you've taken away the corals where a lot of octopus species live and hide, and those are gone. All that life's gone on the coral. It's a totally dead ecosystem there now. And it's going to affect them. I mean, they just don't, like we said, and I've said this a million times, IUCN has limited budget. So we talked about orcas last week, and we don't know their population. And that's one of the most iconic mammals in the oceans. So of course we don't have a census on some of these other species. It's just, they can't do it all. They can't. They're working as hard as they can. And then the other thing, Angie, why care with octopus? And I'm not kidding you. There wasn't actually,
because we need more octopus YouTube videos. That's why.
Yes, we do. And Octonation will give us like a totally long, detailed.
Oh, I watched a whole bunch on their website already. They're fantastic. I watched one about the blue ring octopus eating, and it's a gnarly website. Go to it. Do yourself a favor for sure.
Yeah.
Or,
but
I don't know if it's a website. So, it's like it's a Facebook
fan club. Yes, Facebook group and Instagram. But we'll talk about it at the end. But and we did talk about this in Vampire Squid, but again, it was one of our earlier episodes, so we were still a little rough.
Oh, I would not even. You could not pay me. There's a few things you couldn't pay me to do. But in there's a lot that you couldn't pay me to do. But
listening to that,
you definitely couldn't pay me to listen to our earlier podcasts. Like, no, I would quit. Yeah. Like I would quit, and I know we have besides our moms, we have a few more fans, and I don't want to quit. So I can't listen to them. The other thing I would never, and I don't know if I've ever told you this. The other thing you could not pay me enough money to like sit through.
Go back to grad school.
No, Chris.
Sit through one of my lectures.
Close.
Thanks.
My master's defense, my exit interview.
Oh. Really?
Yes, you and Warren turned on me, and I dug a hole and I couldn't get out, and I freaked out inside. I went in the bathroom and cried.
Did you?
I would never cry in front of you, please. But after it was like when you get sent out of the room for them to decide. Well, no, it wasn't you guys. It was I kept answering questions wrong, and then I didn't know at that time that it was a good thing to say I don't know.
Yeah,
and
I know.
The more you study science and practice science, the more you learn, you get comfortable saying, I don't know, or let me get an expert for that, or how do I figure it out? And I was nervous, and I'm a choker. Even this day when I get a guitar on stage or whatever, I choke. John always teases me. He's like, you always choke. Like bowling. I had a strike. The next time I bowl, gutter ball.
The gutter.
Always. I'm such a choker. And so anyways, but so I choked, and so I'm like, oh man, and it was like a 2-hour event, right? An exit interview.
No, let me go back. Okay, for us, it was a training exercise because you did Angie is one of the best grad students ever to grace that program. Her master's work was really a PhD project. It absolutely was. I was just trying to help you learn because I knew you were starting a PhD. You walked in that room already graduated.
Yeah. Okay? No, I know. It's a process, but I just remember that, there's just certain things I couldn't, no. Oh gosh, no. It turned me into who I am today because I learned how to be able to back up my claims or just be very comfortable saying, I don't know.
I don't know. And we do that on the podcast. You do it all the time.
Oh.
You don't know a lot of stuff.
All the time. Exactly.
Like, here you go.
Ooh, yes.
So going back to our, the point of the Vampire Squid was reading this again, and there was an actual paper published, and I refused to read it because I didn't have enough time. I had enough stuff to research for this podcast that said that literally believes octopus were delivered by a comet or something else, that they are extraterrestrial. Because, which is a little out there. I don't agree with that hypothesis.
Well, I'll tell you what, the reason I totally didn't shut it down, and obviously I haven't read the paper, and it's probably far-fetched, but a saying after taking invertebrate biology and learning, and this was so many years ago, and once again, for closure in this podcast, for all of our Octonation fans out there, I am not an invertebrate biologist. And so it's a little tougher for Chris and I, obviously, since we normally work with vertebrate species, mammals in particular. So but a thing that always stuck with me, and I don't know if I read it or said it or dreamt it, but if octopuses had a backbone, they would rule the world.
I think you said that last week in orcas. Yeah. Between them and orcas, it's
orcas have the backbone. They just got to get out of the water. So they're stuck in the water.
I know.
But I mean, octopuses, they go out of the water, and I'll talk a lot about that when I get to behavior and intelligence and some of the wacky stunts and shenanigans they do. So no, but I mean, seriously, Chris, they are different.
They're radical.
They're radically intelligent, and because they don't have a backbone, they're so separate from us on the evolutionary tree. Mm-hmm. It's like, how did that happen? How did they get so smart?
Well, I'm about to get there. I just wanted to say that the scientific fact, besides that they were dropped off here on Earth, like I told you, the orcas were, that they are one of the most unique biological organisms on Earth. In the fact, and we don't have time in this podcast.
Yeah, we're not going to do them justice.
Physiology.
Yeah.
No. And we'll cover another octopus here soon, or cephalopod, is that they edit their RNA instead of their DNA. So most organisms on Earth, including insects, they edit their DNA gets edited, and then they express it through RNA. Octopuses do it different. They edit their RNA, which baffles scientists. And that's why this guy's like, oh, they were dropped off here by a comet or meteor or something. So anyways, it's what we could learn from that in science. That's why I care. There's not just, they're beautiful, they belong there, they do a great job in the oceans, they're part of the food web. That fact, and then going back to all the other species we've covered. Anyways.
Well, and the really significant fact, I think, about DNA and RNA, if you're not like a genomics expert, is that the ability to edit RNA could have such important clinical impacts for disease. Because with DNA, you edit it, your DNA makes tons of mistakes all day long, up and down the river when cells are dividing. But your body's so smart, you have all these DNA enzymes that come in and clean it up. And they notice mistakes and they fix them, and they're really clever. Once in a great moon, they miss one. And that can become repeated. That mistake, that one nucleotide mistake, can be repeated time and time after again as your cells are multiplied, and thus cancer, for instance, right? So if you can edit your RNA, that means you can fix any of those translated messages. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? Is that, so,
Yeah. So, no, that's what it is. It's a message. So yeah, they change the message.
They change the message in real time.
They have the ability to change the message. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. That's a long, maybe boring for some.
I'm like, what? Like, that's what we're going to talk. Give me that paper right now.
No, what you got? Octopus. We're not even.
Just kidding. They do some really funny behavior called love play. So I want to get there.
Oh, I can't wait. Okay. So let me get through evolution, because I didn't spend a ton of time on it, knowing that we really wanted to focus on physiology behavior.
They're old.
Animals. They are very old. I mean, out of the 300 species, you have ones that have tentacles up to 2 meters long, or little tiny ones. Like this one's a smaller one, up to 30 grams. They belong to cephalopods, so they also have squid and cuttlefish are in there. Okay.
Yeah, we have to do a cuttlefish. Those guys are rad.
Yeah, I know. So the story begins over 500 million years ago, when the first evidence of cephalopods began. And the oldest one is Tanuella, and that is the early Cambrian, which is about 522 million years ago. So that's when cephalopods first emerged. That long ago. That survived all the mass extinctions.
That's dinosaur time.
Yeah. Oh, way before dinosaurs.
Okay.
Way
Don't
before
tell
dinosaurs.
Xander. Okay.
Yeah, I won't. Yeah, you're talking 300 million years before dinosaurs ever emerged.
Dang.
I mean, a long time
okay.
ago. Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah.
See? There.
So, and this one looked like a nautilus.
Okay.
That's probably the one we should cover. The nautilus. shelled organisms. Now listen to this. This is again, the octopus did rule the earth, Angie, for 360 million years. They ruled the oceans. It wasn't until the Cretaceous period, about 66 million years ago.
That's dinosaur time.
Yes. Fish and marine mammals started to take over, marine animals, started to take over, and then the end of the dinosaurs. So you did have marine mammals emerging. Now again, any oceanic species, we say this, it's tough to study them fossil-wise, even more so for octopus or cephalopods because they're soft-bodied. They don't lend themselves to fossilization. So what we do know is octopus specifically started about 100 million years ago. Okay, so cephalopods, 500 million. Octopus, over 100 million years ago, they started emerging. And then really 2.6 million years ago is really when they diverged out to this path to the 300 species we see today. Okay, so that's the quick and dirty on cephalopod evolution. Now, the blue ring octopus specifically, the class is the cephalopod, the order is Octopoda. Then you get down to the families Octopotidae, and then the genus, these names, Angie.
I know.
Okay, here we go.
Forget about it.
Hapaloclaena. I hope that's right. Hapaloclaena. I'm going to go with it.
It sounds
That's
great to me.
That's their genus name. Mm-hmm. Okay, so of the 4 confirmed, 6 suspected, the 2 I kind of wanted to talk about was the greater blue-ringed. So that is Hapaloclaena lunulata.
Lunulata. Yeah, I like that.
Lunulata, yeah. And they're northern Australia to Japan, as far west as Sri Lanka. Then the southern blue-ringed octopus, this is for our friends down in Australia. It's South Australia, temperate waters. This is Hapaloclaena macalusa. Macalusa, sure. Now, the largest octopus. Do you know this one? I don't know. Your son did. I think he knew it. I asked him what color it was.
Oh.
And he said red.
I wondered what he was answering red. I know I don't know it.
Yeah, I'm sure. So the giant Pacific octopus is the largest octopus, not largest cephalopod.
Okay.
We'll save that for another day. But the giant Pacific octopus, the largest octopus, weighs 160 pounds or 70 kilograms. Others claim they get up to 600 pounds or 270 kilograms.
What? That's huge.
An arm span of 14 or 30 feet or 9 meters.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's still some debate on it.
Okay.
Octonation will probably correct us, but they're huge octopus. So quite strong. Now the blue ring, when you look at how long they only live about 2 years. That's about right for octopus. I mean, they're a little less. The average is 3 to 5 years for most octopus. They don't live long.
No,
lives.
They go fast and hard.
Right. Okay, here we go. This is the fun part.
Yay.
Physiology. After all that lead up. So they just...
Where do we start?
Okay, so here we go. They're soft-bodied, right? There's only 2 solid parts of the body in an octopus, and it's like similar to bone or cartilage. And that's its mouth, so it's beak. Mm-hmm. So it has a beak like a parrot. And so that's where it can crack shells and grind some food. And then there's a small plate in the back of their head, which I wasn't aware of, that protects the brain. So that is what, you're going to talk some of their behaviors, but when they squeeze through things, those are the only 2 things that are preventing it from squeezing through.
Gotcha.
Are those 2 little cartilage, bony-like protrusions. Mm-hmm. So other than that, they can squeeze through almost anything, right? Like you have evidence of that.
Oh yeah, some funny
escape
stories.
Artists.
Yeah, escape artists.
This is going to blow you away. Oh wait.
The RNA, I was kind of like, drop the mic. I'm ready to be done.
It's like I was going to be done after Xander told me all this stuff. I was going to save it for a little bit, but I want to tell you this first. The octopus has 9 brains. 9 brains. Think about that. How in the heck? That's how smart they are, right? 9 brains.
Lord knows I could use 1 more. I don't need 9. I don't need 8 more, but 1 more would.
I'm like, what? How? 9 brains. So what do you think? What do you think of all those brains are? If you had to guess.
Well, they definitely have one in their head.
You probably did your homework. Yes, that's the one, that's central brain that controls their nervous system. Right.
Very important.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I'm good with numbers, I know that they have.
I'm sure. Google it real quick.
I studied.
They have 9 brains. I know.
I know that they have a lot of neural tissue in their arms.
Yeah, and they call it a brain. I'm like, what? So I started looking up brain physiology and all that stuff and the definition of brain. But what's the punchline with that? Why would each tentacle have its own separate brain? Is what they're calling a brain.
Well, we all know that 2 brains are better than 1. And so 8 brains are definitely going to be better than 1. And that way each arm can do its own thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like what?
Mm-hmm.
What? They operate independently of each other. Like what? That I was like sitting there for a while staring at the screen. I'm like, am I reading this right? Like each arm can think for itself.
Yes.
With its central with the not the central nervous system, but the nervous system,
neurons,
the brain they have
right?
developed in each arm. Neurons.
Yeah. 2/3 of the neurons that make up their body are in their arms. So the larger portion. And Chris, in addition to that, so they have all these neurons in their arms, and there's lots of different types of neurons. But recent studies have shown that they have nociceptors, which that's just a really fancy science term for pain receptors in their arms. And so they they have different sensations. So they're like a sense receptor for pain among touch, among pressure, all these different things. And so they're a lot more dynamic than I think researchers originally had thought. And it's because of this complex neurology within their arms.
It's I mean, okay. And just to throw this out there too, 90% of the octopus body is muscle, right? So we'll get to why that's important here in a second. So each tentacle is pretty much just muscle, but it operates by itself. We just talked about that. There's no bones in it, so it can bend in any angle and can go in almost any direction. Each tentacle has on average around 230 cups. Okay. Each cup has sensitivity of a fingertip. So that's almost like 1,800 fingers that the octopus has, right? 8 times 230 equals around 1,800. This is, you're talking about sensory neurons. They have about 1,000 sensory receptors in each cup compared to, we have about 240 in each fingertip.
Right.
So they can sense better. And then they can manipulate each sucker or cup individually.
Mm-hmm.
So then, okay, you're talking, on average 230 suckers or cups on the arm. Each one can hold about 1/3 of a pound or 170 grams. So each arm roughly can hold 18 pounds or 8 kilograms. And then, that's how they attach their prey and hold them with ease. So it's just crazy. Now, like I said, they're made mostly of muscle. So that means we know with muscle, you need lots of oxygen and energy. So, like your children knew, they have 3 hearts. 3 hearts.
I mean,
so not only 9 brains, but
they
3
know
hearts.
how to problem solve. They're like, okay. Developmental biology is just incredible. Like evolutionary biology. I'd love to go back and study more of that. But yeah. So like you said, okay, we need more, we obviously need more oxygen to work these muscles and to remove waste and things like that. So boom. Okay. We got to pump the blood all over the body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so they do have a closed circulatory system. It's not open like some other invertebrates. Right. So they have vessels that carry blood to the tissue. Now, of the 3 hearts, one is the systemic heart, and that carries blood throughout the body. The 2, they're called brachial hearts, and branchial hearts, centered around the gills, right? So, again, circulating oxygen. One of maybe it was vampire squid. We talked about how gills work. You're exchanging oxygen really through there, and it obviously it's not as, the tissue isn't as effective as say lungs, but they have all those little grooves and valleys and stuff to get water across so they can absorb the oxygen from there. So those 2 hearts are working on that. Now this is interesting. When an octopus swims, the systemic heart, the one that pumps all the blood stops beating. So they tire quickly. They don't like to swim. They like to walk,
crawl,
slowly and move around. Yeah. Yeah. Now I know you know this, and I forgot to ask Xander this, but their blood is
blue
color. Yeah. Blue. I know. It's like, okay, what else is, maybe they are. Maybe this guy is right. Maybe I should go hang out with this crazy scientist who thinks they were dropped off on Earth.
Well, they're just fun. It's like sci-fi, right? You know?
It is. It is. This is so, it's normal because it works and they're doing quite well and they've done quite well for 500 million years. So you've been teaching physiology, but you've been teaching physiology about, human anatomy and mammalian anatomy. Okay. Why in the heck is their blood blue?
Well, in order to survive where they live, they've evolved to use copper as the metal that carries oxygen instead of iron. Iron is what mammals use, vertebrates. We all use iron, which is on the outside of red blood cells, which helps bind the oxygen to the red blood cell. And so without diving too deep into literature, I'm assuming that they just use copper attached to their red blood cells instead of iron.
Yeah. Yeah. Extreme temperatures is what I was reading, and the copper binds it. Now, thinking about that, I thought about, okay, their ink, because, the prototypical octopus, people or squid, they squirt ink. So what octopus or octopuses have is they have ink sacs near the gills. When threatened, they do emit the ink and then a jet of water to shoot it out. And that's usually to disorient anybody messing with them or a predator so they can get away. And what it is it's melanin. So it is actually red in color, but it's so dense that it's like dark brown or black. So
and melanin is just the protein that's pigmented.
Now, let's go to Blue Ring Octopus specifically. A lot of those facts apply
to... Well, I was going to say, except for the ink one, but keep going.
Yeah. Apply to all the other species. Now, the Blue Ring Octopus is known to be extremely dangerous because they have a toxin. And the interesting fact about octopuses is that they're all venomous in some way. And Xander in the beginning told you how venom is delivered. They're not poisonous, they're venomous. And it's through their bite. That's how they do that. Now, the Blue Ring Octopus has a neurotoxin called tetrodotoxin, and that's actually produced. Did I say it right?
I would say tetrodotoxin.
Yeah, okay.
Or maybe tratadotoxin. I don't know.
Let's have a sound off. Let me go back to some Latin.
Terototoxin.
Nasty toxin is what it is, and it's produced by bacteria in the salivary glands in the mouth.
Right. That's what rocked my world.
Yeah. It's the bacteria in their mouth that's producing this toxin.
That's crazy.
And I know we'll get to conservation. I mean, people are looking at this, again, scientifically, if we go back to why care for possible medical uses. Now, if for humans, for us, the bite's painless, generally. You don't even know you've been bitten until you can't breathe because it's a neurotoxin paralyzes your muscles. And what that does is then you can't breathe and you die because you can't breathe. You can't get oxygen to all your organs and stuff. So it leads to respiratory arrest.
Well, yeah, this tetrodotoxin is really crazy stuff. And so it's very potent. And by neurotoxin, it obviously affects the nerves. But I had to dork out and dive deeper because I'm really into this kind of stuff. I love really small, like hormones and neurotransmitters and I guess toxins that you can't see. I should have paid more attention in chemistry. But anyways, but what it does is tetrodotoxin is a sodium channel blocker. And basically, more or less, unless you're taking my anatomy and physiology class and you're not getting tested on it, all you really need to know is that these sodium channels are all along neurons, along their axons. And they're basically closed until they get a signal or a neurotransmitter tells them to open. And then that starts the cascade of action potential or the neuron firing, like the electrical signal. And it's way more involved than that. But what this tetrodotoxin is doing is saying, sodium channels, you're not working. You can't fire. So it literally stops nerves from firing. And nerves are really important to move your muscles. I mean, neurons and nerves are important for a whole host of things, but they fire on skeletal muscle. So if you want to do a jumping jack, that's your brain telling your skeletal muscles to move. And so when that doesn't happen, you're paralyzed. And death by paralysis actually involves a diaphragm is usually what gets you, is if the diaphragm can't move to help you breathe with your lungs and take in oxygen, that's how you die.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very potent. And usually people that have survived, it's because people get in CPR.
Right. Yes. So if you suspect that you've been bitten, you obviously want to get to a hospital ASAP. And yes, basically applying artificial respiration can help keep a person alive until the neurotoxin moves its way through the system. But did you come across any data on just how potent it is?
It's, what was it? 1,000 times more powerful than cyanide, can kill up to 26 humans in minutes.
Yeah, I got a couple different numbers when it was compared to cyanide. I'm not as familiar with cyanide as a toxin. And some resources said 10,000 times deadlier than cyanide, or 10 to 100 times more lethal as a black widow, which is a venomous spider here in the States. So yeah, very, very potent. And obviously it works as one of their hunting strategies, their main hunting strategies for their food.
Yeah. Yeah. And I read, if you can survive the first 24 hours, you'll survive it. It doesn't come back and haunt you later. And at the end, I'll give you the statistics on,
how deadly
they are, because there's no anti-venom. It's scary.
Right.
There is no way to counteract this, unlike, some snakes and stuff that we talked about.
Right.
Now, some of the things that will eat octopus, fish, birds, some whales, dolphins, they tend to, natural predators. For specifically the blue ring octopus, two things that right now with human activity, some people just kill them because they're scared of them, because they know they're deadly, which is really sad. And then the venom industry in Australia, which I won't go there, but they're harvesting them to collect the venom.
For what reason?
For what? I don't know. I have no idea. I did
to
not
try
go
to
down
make
that
an
rabbit hole.
anti-venom?
I don't want to. Yeah. No, I don't think so. I don't know. If drug industry, maybe. I don't know. It's illegal, though. It's an illegal industry that's collecting them, from what I understand.
Well, our Octonation fans are going to have to help us out there, Chris.
Do a little bit of homework.
Our Aussie fans. Yeah.
Yes.
We're just a two-man band here, folks. We cannot cover it all.
I know. Well, we get lost in physiology. We start doing that physiology. We go down so many rabbit holes. It's fun.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really fun.
Totally.
Now, blue ring octopuses specifically feed on small crabs, hermit crabs, shrimp that it hunts during the day. And then, Angie, this is what's really unique about them, too. They have two types of venom. So one of the venoms is just for hunting crabs. And then the extremely toxic one is used in defense.
Oh, okay. So that must be the tetrado.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Or,
that's the one
what
we talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, the deadly one.
So
what they do is they secrete. The other one is really not so horrible venom, but probably will kill you venom.
Maybe. Do you think it's the other one just diluted down?
I don't know. I didn't read that. I'm just going.
Okay, sorry.
I'm talking about what they eat.
You know me. I just love toxins and neurotransmitters. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. Here, teaching moment. Angie, that's a very good question. Why don't you go research that, and then next week's episode you can tell all our listeners what you found.
do that to my class every day, and they never come back. They're like, whatever, lady. I'm not doing extra work.
I don't even know what species we're doing next week.
Well, okay. Like, how about this, though? You have your two venoms that you learned about that you don't know any answers about. Mm-hmm. I learned that the blue-ringed octopus is actually immune to its own venom. And not only are they immune to their own venom, but pathology studies have shown that this tetrodotoxin is found in nearly every organ and gland in its body. Even sensitive areas such as their brachial heart, their gills, their needham sac. I don't even know what that is. Octonation, help me out. So it's just crazy. It has it in its system, and it has no effect on them. So they are able to, they have some kind of blocker, right? Like or it doesn't bind to their cells, or
they're immune to it.
They're immune to it, which is crazy. And to even blow your mind one step further, to jump ahead to reproduction with females and offspring, and we're going to get there and talk about some of their breeding, reproduction, and behavior. But mama octopus will actually inject this neurotoxin into her eggs to help them make it and make sure that they can generate their own venom before they can hatch, because they're on their own right after they hatch.
Crazy.
Now I need to know. I don't know. Don't ask me any questions about that. About that physiology.
No, because I'm like, we're gonna go down this rabbit hole. I did your homework for you real quick. But
if there's bacteria, like, how is the bacteria involved?
Yeah.
Like we can.
Yeah, that's maybe the bacteria. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so the other venom type is maculotoxin.
Okay, thank you, Google.
There you go. I did your homework for you. Now I'm going to go back to O-Search while you're talking. If anybody remembers last week's episode. Oh, no, that was the Great White Shark episode that people have to pay Patreon to look at. Yeah. Go look at O-Search after the podcast. OCERCH. Shark Tracker.
No, it's OCEARCH. Something like that.
I can't spell. So, all right. So the less toxic venom they use for hunting crab, the other type they use for defense. Yes. And they secrete it in their saliva, and
made by bacteria. We don't know, folks.
Yeah, they still are learning a lot. They think maybe that they secrete it in the water and then they bite to get it.
Yeah, Chris, I read that they have a few different hunting strategies. One of them is where they'll entice a prey into its vicinity and then basically let the venom go into the water around the creature. And
then bite it.
To soften it or to start paralyze it, and then they'll get it. Another one is, of course, the typical way where they directly inject the venom. And then the third way they do this, they think that they do this thing where they capture the prey and then they form an airtight pouch around it. And then they'll basically insert the venom into the pouch. The victim will have to take the venom in through its respiratory system.
Wow.
So it probably depends on the type of prey. I'm just hypothesizing how they hunt differently.
Like a fish or something,
But once again, several different strategies that they've evolved in order to figure out how to best feed themselves.
Yes. All right. This is the next big section. That's just basic physiology. There's so much more we could go.
Like, not very good. I give us a C- at best.
I give myself a B+. My Google skills are amazing. All right, Angie. So reading about behavior, this one blew me away, and then I'll let you go. Because I'm sure you have tons of stuff on behavior.
17 slides, Chris. We've got 17.
Okay. I'm going to be on O-Search.
There you go.
Researchers have discovered that octopuses in Indonesia, listen to this, when seas are stormy, they will actually grab 2 coconut halves of a shell and close it shut and stay inside until the weather passes. So they will actually close up into a coconut to protect themselves during stormy weather. Like, that's insane. And I know Octonation had a video on it a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh my God, it was so awesome. That is nuts. That is nuts.
Yes. I mean, their behavior is radical. What you described there falls under tool use. And so when you talk about intelligence and learning, it's basically the process of acquiring information, storing memories, retrieving it, combining different things, comparing different situations, putting it in new contexts, and having these conceptual skills. And of course, this is hard to assess in land mammals even. And scientists are figuring out how to do it for different species, right? We just keep finding out they're smarter and smarter, whether it's an orca or an elephant that can recognize themselves in a mirror, all these different tests. But learning about creatures that live in the sea is often very difficult too, because we're so far removed from them. And if you're bringing them into a laboratory environment, that can change a lot of factors. But what we know in general is about cephalopods, cuttlefish, squid, octopus. They're hands down the most intelligent invertebrates, and they definitely have advanced cognitive evolutionary skills. And it's really a fascinating and kind of growing interest in a lot of zoologists. And as you found, there's a lot of papers out there about it. They exhibit a lot of different, more higher cognitive levels of learning. Like I said, tool use, problem solving, spatial discrimination, navigation abilities, adapting predator techniques. So it's just, the examples go from what Chris mentioned as far as the coconut shells, and there's great videos out there of that. There's a plethora of anecdotal stories out there about octopuses under human care that one escaped their enclosure. How it got out, they don't know. But then it chose to, it found a drain that basically fed into the ocean. So it freed itself.
Yeah. It's like the movie Finding Nemo Part 2.
Dory. Yeah. Right? Like real deal. They have been known to climb out of their tanks, maneuver across the lab, go into another aquarium, eat crabs. Okay, and that alone is like, whoa, that's pretty crazy.
Okay, yeah.
But in a documented instance, they actually came back and put themselves to bed in their own aquarium over and over again because they basically knew that they were going to get in trouble if the keepers busted them. Right? So they knew to sneak out. They're like a teenager. Like a teenager knows to sneak out after mom and dad go to bed. Yeah. They do their thing, and then they're like, oh, okay, better get back and play, hide in bed. And it's just crazy stuff. There is documentation of them opening a child-proof pill bottle, which I sometimes have a hard time with.
Yeah. The suckers, I'm telling you, those suckers are powerful.
They've been observed manipulating objects that looks like them playing. This one octopus that was bored taught himself to juggle. I'm not even kidding. And people that...
What species are we doing again?
I know. Seriously.
What is this?
My husband can juggle. It's pretty amazing. But anyways, and time again, people that work with them talk about octopuses having distinct personalities. What does that mean? So it's funny. I was actually talking about this with Xander before the podcast because he was asking, oh, they're smart and how so? And I get to study personalities in another lab that I work in part-time for a neurophysiologist. And personalities, obviously they're different, right? Like some people are more anxious, some people are more laid back. And although personality is a really huge topic in psychology and neurobiology, but what makes your personalities is basically how do you react to things, both good and bad. And you do this in a consistent way. So, of course, once in a while, I react poorly to a crappy situation. Everybody does that. But in general, I'm usually an optimist. So that's one of my personality traits. I'm an optimist. And so it's typically considered personality to be a higher cognitive thing with animals. And time again in laboratory experiments, researchers are documenting that basically octopuses have these distinct, they're predictable. What they love and what they don't like, what they fear is different from individual to individual, but yet consistent for that individual. And so shy. Oh, Hank is always shy, or, oh, Susie's really gregarious and outgoing and social. So just really, really interesting stuff. They also in experiments can distinguish between different shapes and patterns. So it's just nuts. In fact, interestingly enough, due to their intelligence, a lot of cephalopods are protected by animal testing regulations in the United Kingdom and across the European Union, because they're recognizing that, wow, these guys are, they're deep thinkers, radical. Right? They are, So I think we have a lot to learn. I think the really interesting way to look at it is it depends on how you define it. They're so alien to us that I think we don't even know how to test their intelligence. Does that make sense? Like I shouldn't say I'm not the scientist actually doing it. And I think scientists are doing a great job, but in general, as a scientist, I don't care who you are, including myself, we like to put things in a box. Like this fits into this category, this fits in that category. And of course, a lot of times we create new categories and things when we come across something exceptional. And I think the octopus is exceptional, and we know that it's really amazing, but we still have a lot more to learn, and they have a lot more to teach us about themselves and of course about ourselves, I think.
Yeah, no, their behaviors, their intelligence, their physiology, we'll get to repro in a second. One thing I've read up on was their mimicry, which octopuses can do. It's one of the few animals on Earth that can use mimicry and camouflage at the same time. So they can actually mold it into a three-dimensional object. So like different corals, algae, and while they're doing that, their mimicry, right? They're molding their body into something that looks like that. They do this almost simultaneously. They change the color of their skin to blend in, and it like changes instantly, almost instantly. So, they've studied some of this in the reflector cells and the pigment cells in their skin. But to be able to look at a coral and see a shark and go, oh, I don't want to die, go and look like a coral. Oh, sucker, you can't see me. Well, it's so
funny in prepping for this podcast and A, thinking about camouflage, and B, thinking about how, like you said, they can mimic 3D objects, which is just bizarre. I was like, okay, I have a question for you, Chris. Any animal superpower, what would you pick?
I'm going to be an octopus now.
I know. That's so I'm always like, oh, my animal superpower is definitely be a bird so I can fly, because that'd just be so cool. And I've flown in my dreams before, and it's pretty radical. But I'm like, I think.
What did you eat?
I have very, very vivid, like lucid dreams. It's cool because my kids have inherited it, and John's getting better at remembering. You just have to practice talking about dreams, and then you can, whatever. Right. But yes, no. So I've flown a lot. It's super fun. But anyways, that was always my animal super strength I'd want. But after studying not only the camouflage to be able to be the sandy color or gray color of rocks or brown and black to blend in, which Chris and I didn't even give that the light of day about their physiology
another
on this
30
podcast.
Minutes. Yeah.
But the other thing, of course, a blue-ringed octopus do very well is aposematism. And basically that's a fancy word for advertising your toxicity with this beautiful blue iridescent glowing ring that they have. And I read up 25 to 50, probably depending on the species. And Chris will put some wonderful show notes with pictures and all of this so you can see them if you're not familiar with the species. But as I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, that would be probably my second choice animal superpower. Imagine this. I'm sitting across the dinner table from my kids and they're misbehaving, and I give them the stink eye, and they know the stink eye. But wouldn't it be way cooler if I could just all of a sudden like start flashing blue circles all over my body?
I feel like every 10 minutes.
I know.
I would behave.
Yeah. But like, what a cool warning signal. Like, I wouldn't even have to say a word. I would just start flashing blue circles, and it means watch out. Mama's giving you a warning.
Your face gets red. Yeah. I
think it would mean more than the stink eye, because the stink eye, my oldest has started like giving it back to me because he thinks it's hilarious, and he does have a great sense of humor. So I think it's hilarious that he thinks it's hilarious. And then anyways, so I think, so totally octopus is my new superhero animal, hands down. Octonation, I get it. I'm a believer. I'm a fan. We didn't even talk about how they are able to do this color change through the chromatophore cells. But basically, a lot of ocean-dwelling animals that will flash these bright lights, like the vampire squid, for instance, and the blue-ringed octopus have these chromatophores, which are basically pigment-containing light-reflecting cells. And so what will happen is the cell has pigmented granules in it, which obviously in the blue-ringed octopus, they reflect a blue color, and muscles around them either contract or either contract and or dilate them to basically show off the pigment, the granulated pigments inside each cell. And so obviously it's way more complex than that, but it's cool physiology. Obviously us humans don't have it. Land mammals don't have it. It would be my superpower of choice.
Yeah, no, I think it's way cool. So we did touch upon some of the repro. I'm interested because it was, again, I think one of the Planet Earths. It was the episode with the giant Pacific octopus and how the mom laid the eggs and like for a year just stayed there and she dies protecting the eggs and nourishing them. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see how it is with the blue-ringed.
Yeah, so there's some similarities there. Basically, they are super moms and kind of we'll get there of why they're super moms. They're a different type of super mom than we've seen. And octopuses usually live a solitary lifestyle, but they will come together for breeding purposes. And typically a female, and this is going to be in the southern species of blue-ringed octopus, the female, she'll initiate a little bit of courtship by doing certain color flashes. And I think that'd be fun for my superhuman kind of want animal superpowers. But she does a little flashing, she does a little posturing, and tells the male to come over, which he does. And it's been documented that the courtship will consist of love play and caressing. So that's really fascinating, right? For an invertebrate, you wouldn't think that. And then, of course, the male uses a modified arm. There's a joke there, just waiting to happen.
We won't go there. We have kids listening.
And then the male uses his modified arm, which is also called a hectocoitalus. I think I'm saying that right, probably wrong. Which is, like I said, a modified arm consisting of a groove between the suckers and ending in a spoon-like tip, where he'll deposit sperm in the female's oviduct, which is located under her mantle. Okay. Mm-hmm. And shortly after mating, the female will lay her eggs and she incubates them. I love this. She incubates them under her arms for about 6 months. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. And the supermom doesn't eat while she's incubating her eggs because obviously she needs her arms to eat. But for all of us moms that have a million things in their arms, I come out of my car every day after school and work with the boys, and I'm like the bag lady and cups and just all like you need your arms. And so if you're incubating your clutch of up to 50 eggs, depending on the species, you have to just kind of just hang out, right? So incredible, so dedicated, because wait for it. She does all this work. I don't want to say for naught, but basically what'll happen is the eggs will hatch. The juvenile octopuses will sink to the floor and look for prey because they're immediately independent. And the female dies.
Yep.
I mean, that's all of us mamas and daddas like you out there. We would die for our young, figuratively. But then when you put it literally, you're like, listen. Well, which kid? What's the day look like?
Okay, so she suffers for those months, right? Or she's doing that, but the dad dies after mating, so we'll give him that. So after the males mate, they're done. Their life purpose is over. They become fish food.
But did they starve for 6 months before they die?
No, I'm saying she suffered. Okay. I said she suffers. Okay. I get it. So he's not a super dad, cassowary dad, Rob Lang dad. He's a good donor. Dies.
Fair enough. I'll give it that.
Okay, come on. He's not like, Mr. Honey Badger.
He does some love.
Doesn't care about anything.
Love playing, caressing. So he's not a total, a total jerk. Deadbeat, So, but these little juvenile octopuses begin to eat at about 1 week of age. They find little crab pieces. And because one of the other things we mentioned briefly earlier in the podcast is the mom sets them up for success which is a weird way to set your kid up for success, but by dosing those eggs or dousing, I don't know the actual physiology of how she does it, but she basically exposes the eggs to the neurotoxin so they either become immune to it or start being able to secrete it basically right from birth. Which because they need it to kill prey and they're independent, they have a hard life and they have to go from the get-go hunting. So just really, really incredible parenting and just really interesting. And we didn't do it justice. Sorry for our Octonation fans out there. It could probably be a whole pod because the behaviors seem pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to revisit cephalopods. I know it. I know it for sure. Now, we did say conservation, data deficient. We just don't know. We've talked about that. We've talked about the oceans are in peril. So we've driven that home. The organization this week, if you haven't been listening, is Octonation. So,
what was
listen
it again?
to that
What was
interview.
the organization of the week?
Octonation. Have you heard it in the last hour and a half? You're busy on O Search. So, the Octonation, the largest octopus fan club, it's committed to uniting a community of cephalopod enthusiasts to educate, entertain, and empower others about cephalopods through a unique mix of science, education, and community.
Yes, we definitely need to get a cephalopod expert on the podcast for an interview. That'd be awesome. For sure.
For sure. They are an amazing group. I met Warren a few months ago. We'll tell his story and more on Octonation this coming week. They have a beautiful, incredible, fun Facebook group. It's Octonation. So OCTONATION for those of us that can't spell like me. Octonation. You can follow them on Instagram. Always active, always posting amazing videos of these cephalopods. So, shout out to the Octonation and check them out, please. Now, conservation tip of the week. We're back in the oceans. Overfishing's a threat. That's the big thing that I'm going to talk this week. I didn't know this, so I'm going to start looking for it, but seafood, we can start shopping for sustainable seafood. Okay. And I don't think we've mentioned this before. But when you're shopping for seafood, look for the Marine Stewardship Council, which is MSC, and Aquaculture Stewardship Council, ASC labels. Now, I don't know if that's outside the United States, but for, in your home country, if you have something similar. So they're blue and green fish logos that ensure your fish are traced back to sustainable managed fisheries or fish farms, which is a whole nother podcast. But, at least we're not fishing the oceans out, which they are. They are. It's horrible.
Yeah, John and I were just talking today. We got to go on a lunch date today and skip out and work a little bit. But we were talking about doing the tuna or another. I know Jonathan wants a salmon, right?
Right.
So getting a little bit more out of our comfort zone and talking about fish that's heavily consumed. And obviously you and I would focus on their biology and physiology, but we could also, I could educate. I don't know a ton about that industry, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, Jonathan, it's coming. That's our buddy up in British Columbia. It's coming. And, maybe not eat octopus or eat it as often. Somebody near and dear to my heart loves octopus.
Well, we know they can feel and there's tentacles, right? So my goodness.
It's okay. I still love her. But anyways, it's just, we need to be sustainable in our oceans.
And I just want to do a quick shout out to this challenge that All Creatures Podcast is going to hold. We're going to have a team. Right now, there's 2 people on the team. If you guessed me and Chris, you guessed right. We will be putting it on our Facebook page and then also in our Facebook group for you to join with us. And we can do this July plastic-free challenge together. Don't be scared away from it. It is not going completely plastic free. It involves a lot of different aspects of learning about how to be more sustainable within the environment. So yes, plastics is part of it, learning about that, but there's also food topics, personal care topics, community. You get points if you help out in your community, like how Chris picked up beach litter the other day. You get points for that. There's lifestyle, there's pets, there's things you can do with your pets that are more eco-friendly. Of course, there's family activities. So it's not just all about not getting a straw. I mean, of course, you get points if you do that. But the really cool part about it, a whole bunch of other animal organizations are doing this. You don't have to be an animal organization to do this. I just learned about it through the American Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and there's a lot of different teams throughout that. So you can interact and challenge with other teams and or you can interact with yourselves and give tips. Like, for instance, I'm going to be traveling a lot in the month of July with my family. And so this is going to be very hard for me to be super sustainable, because when you travel with kids, it's very difficult. Yeah. But these community boards, we can interact with each other to help give each other advice and talk about. It's a really positive experience. I did it last year with my husband's zoo. And so this year I want All Creatures podcast to beat them. Not that I'm competitive. Yes. So this is going to be, if you're super excited and you want to go today, before Chris and I put up the link, you can just go to plasticfree.ecochallenge.org and search All Creatures podcast, and our team will come up and you can join our team. And it's literally that simple. But we will have a lot more coming on our Facebook and Instagram and our private groups to get you guys excited. And so it's not just Chris, myself, my mom, a few more people. We want more people, as many people as possible to learn. It's all about learning. It's all about educating ourselves.
Yeah, please join our Facebook group. It's just, I think I don't know, I'll mess with it and see if you can just join without me approving it. But I go through and look at all of the approvals. So we'll definitely be posting more there. Now, at the beginning, I said, how deadly is the Blue Ring Octopus? I mean, it is incredibly deadly, but how has it affected humans? The great news is there have been no deaths reported since the 1960s.
Yes.
So we're going on, 50 plus years, nobody has died.
Right. And I kind of jumped over it for lack of time, because I want to talk so much about their intelligence. But octopus in general, especially the blue-ringed octopus, they're very shy. So
they don't want to be
you pretty much have to egg them on. In fact, I think it was in 2008, a man from Australia, I believe, came home and he had put a whole bunch of shells in his pockets that his daughters or kids had collected.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
And he gets out and there's like a blue-ringed octopus that had been obviously hiding on a shell in his pocket. And then it turns out I think there were two that had hitchhiked all the way home from the ocean.
Australia.
And he was fine. Like, they didn't attack him because luckily he didn't he didn't actually bump them or whatever. And then
hurt them. Yeah.
And then there was a real goofball. I think it was uneducated is maybe a more appropriate term, that there's, of course, a video went viral of him on an Australian beach with a blue-ringed octopus in his hand. Well, I think he didn't know what it was, and then whatever. But of course, viral videos or whatever. But he was obviously fine, because he, even at just being on his hand, don't do this at home. Don't you dare do this at the home. We love you. We need you. No. Especially if you're one of our Patreon people. We need you alive. Yeah. So don't do it at home. But it just goes to show that it didn't even bite him, even with all that rigmarole.
No. Very shy. Just don't mess with them. They're great animals. Admire them from a distance. For me, it's going to be nature documentaries. And when I'm in the Maldives,
YouTube videos.
One of these days.
Yes. And of course, Octonations videos. Yes. Interact on Octonations. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyways, thank you. Share this with a friend. Have a great week.
Yes. Thanks, Chris. Please, if you can, just take 5 seconds and review us or rate us on both Facebook and iTunes. Thank you.
Listen, learn, share. Join the movement at allcreaturespod.com.